bone dry stage either. You want to work with it and keep it finished in the wet stage, right? Yeah, so that you don't have to breathe all. Do you have much sanding on yours, George?
Never. I tell people
yeah.
if you must, if it's little bits, I will just feather it off and sponge or something,
Yeah.
even if it's bone dry.
Yeah.
No sanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Best to work
I
leather
better
hard.
do some trimming here. Oh, just in some comments on lids, okay? Lids that fit, that's important. If you're going to make something with a lid, make sure the lid fits, okay? And it should fit all the way around. It shouldn't, you know, have to be put on one way because it's warped or something, you know? So this lid, of course, it's thrown with a flange upside down like this. And I always dry my lids from, as soon as it's trimmed, on the pot, biscuit on the pot, and glaze fired on the pot, okay? And, you know, try to get as tight a fit as I can on that. This lid does give you a little leeway in terms of aesthetics because you can't see if it doesn't fit perfectly. But a lid that has the flange or the galleys on the pot, if the lid doesn't fit perfectly, you're going to see that it's not a good fit. And what happens, you think that you've trimmed it, it looks like it fits perfectly. And then it all dries, and the lid dries smaller than the pot, right? Because actually the shrinkage on a linear surface, like a cross, like we were showing you the rulers, is greater than volumetric shrinkage. And the other thing is, if you throw a lid like this, and you throw the bottom, okay, this will take 3 times as long to dry as this. So if your lid is still much wetter than the rim's the first thing that dries on a pot usually, right? So you've trimmed, this is wet, this is dried. Of course, you think it's fitting, but this still has a lot more drying to do than the rim does. So you end up with it not fitting again. So I usually let my lids sit out and dry. They're sitting out drying 3 times longer than the rim. I get this wrapped up, okay, so it doesn't dry. You got to try to keep both parts equal dryness when you go to trim and put them together. Do you find that, George?
Oh, yes.
Especially something like this. This is quite a thick piece. So
I've never made one of those that big. I usually do the upside
okay, I
down
was going to
bowl.
tell you, this is about the limit, okay? If it's any bigger than this, what happens is you'll get it slumping down, but I don't make it any thinner than that, okay? Or it will
Yeah,
slump.
that's a fact.
Yeah. So,
And if you do an upside down bowl-shaped lid, bowls tend to really pull in.
Pull in
And
at
so
the
it can,
rim, so
so
yeah.
even more
the fit.
variation. So you have to watch out for that.
yeah. So, all about drawing. Okay. We'll move over to the wheel and I can do some trimming then.
Sorry, just to back up. So if you make a lid that is set inside, you draw them together?
Once they're trimmed.
You
Yeah.
start to draw them together?
Yeah, always. Yep, they go together and they stay together while they're drying, while they're bisque firing, and you glaze it, and then you can see the way I wax, so it can be fired on the pot. So it's fired on the pot.
Okay.
And it doesn't hurt too, I find, to check and see if you've got a whole bunch of lids and bottoms and you've trimmed them and say some of them felt just about right. Check them occasionally because it might shrink down and clamp and you might want to take it off and just trim the inside of your lid jar a bit with that kind of lid. Because watch out, sometimes because of all the inequalities, so just keep in touch with the pot all the time because they're changing.
Usually when I do something like this, I make my garlic holders this way, so I'm usually doing maybe a half dozen at a time. So I'll make them all and I'll trim them all and then I'll put them all together and let them dry, and then I'll look and think, holy mackerel, this one is a little too tight, and this one's a little too loose. So then you switch them all around, and you get the lids that are fitting the best with the best pots. So that's the best way to do it. Make a half a dozen and then switch them around.
And an extra one or two as well.
What's that, Jim?
And an extra one.
Yeah,
or
and
two.
an extra one. Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, you can do that too. What was it? Oh, you know what? I discovered this in the drawer just recently, and it's the best little tool. It's a little level, okay? And if you're trimming vases with tall necks, okay, that you got to put them in a chuck like this, and how do you get the bottom level? Perfect.
That's a level?
That's a level. Yeah, I put it in this just so that you know, I've got a bit bigger area. You set it on and you can get it leveled.
Where'd you get that?
Well, I don't know. I found it in the drawer, but it's a carpenter's thing. Okay? Because I've been using this. Remember, Karina, we use this. We go like this and this, and it takes a while to get it.
And it's
Yeah.
off the other way.
But that's a perfect little tool. And I use these, you know, when I'm making feet, okay, on hand-built things. I always use my level. You want it to, you know, want it to be level, okay? You don't want it to be leaning this way and that way, and I do it on these too, okay? So finishing, okay? Little things like this but yeah, that one's really good for in the chuck there.